they were like, hi, this is the organ transplant team. There's a liver for you. Make your way to the hospital. And then I was just like, no, no, it's okay. We don't need it.
We're good.
We're good.
Welcome to the Green Table Talk. I am your host, Jennen Johnson. In this episode of the Green Table Talk, I'll be speaking with Anoush in the second of a three-part series exploring transplant from a mother's point of view.
Welcome to the Green Table Talk. I'm your host, Jennen Johnson. Today, I have the pleasure and the honor of having one of my closest friends on the show today. I'd like to welcome my friend, Kwameah Anoush. Kwameah, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jennen.
I am so excited to have you here. I'm so excited to have you here to share your journey, see your beautiful face, and have everybody hear what you have to say and tell me how you're feeling.
I'm feeling good. I know we kind of have been through this journey together. So,
yes.
And now, we kind of get to sort of the deep of what I went through prior to your journey.
Exactly. So let everybody know a little bit about Kwameah. Any hobbies, what you like to do in your spare time? Give us the deets.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm pretty encompassed with work. In 2020, I got a director's position at the daycare that, so I'm an early childhood educator.
Okay.
And I've been sort of in the field since I was 18. So like over 30 years. So I want to age myself, but over 30 years. Work-life balance, that is definitely something that I'm working on.
Yes, gotcha. I think we're all trying to do the same as well. So I completely get it. Plus you have two amazing, beautiful children.
Yes. So I have a 21-year-old. I wasn't a child bride. and Kael, who is 11, but both of them are turning 22 and 12 in March. They're like March 11th and March 17th, not planned at all.
So listen, I want to find out more about your amazing son, Kael. Mm-hmm. So I know the journey, but I'm trying to help break it down for our viewers and just explain your journey with this, because this episode is about a transplant through a mother's eyes. And so let's talk about when you first found out about Kael and he needed a transplant. Before that, what was Kael like? What type of boy was he prior to the news?
Yeah. So basically he was like perfect pregnancy. Obviously later on, I think I was, I can't even, 36 or something. So, Aria was 10 years old when Kael was born, and everything went fine. And then for the 3-month checkup, he was just jaundiced for longer than is normal. We went back for a 3-month checkup and they did some blood work. And then they found out that the bilirubin in the liver was high. So we did sort of a bunch of tests that same day. And then we got the results that he had blockages in his liver. So the ducts to the liver were very small and atrophied. So he wasn't, so the bile, which breaks down fats and nutrients, weren't working the way that they were supposed to. So he actually was misdiagnosed at 3 months because they thought it was biliary atresia, which is like the narrowing of the ducts. Okay. So he actually had surgery like about a couple days after we were admitted, like an emergency surgery, and that was called a Kasai. And so basically,
and this was based on the misdiagnosis?
Right. Yeah. So they thought that it was biliary atresia, which is like the narrowing of the ducts. So they did like an emergency operation where they connected like the main duct directly to the liver and not like the branches. And then basically they did that first just so that the bile could flow freely. And then it was like a couple of months after they noticed that it wasn't making any difference. And they had told us that sometimes that is not, that doesn't work. But then in the meantime, they had sent his blood work to get some genetic testing, which then came back it took about 8 months. So
Wow.
so he was now, 6 months. He was 8 months when we found out that he had Alagille syndrome. So
Let me
Alagille,
pause you there for 1 second.
yeah.
So before you had the first surgery,
Mhm.
you said he was a little bit jaundiced. Anything else? Was he like lethargic, or he was just beside
No,
the?
it was so quick. So basically, we went to the doctor. We were admitted to the hospital because once
Mhm,
they got the blood work like that, you could get it like
mhm.
by the end of the day. And so then they kept us there. And then like 3 days after, that's when they did the surgery.
The surgery.
Yeah,
Okay.
for what
Okay.
they thought was biliary atresia. Um,
Okay. And so now you're 8 months later.
So
You're.
8 months later, they reach out, like, obviously you're going for like monthly appointments just to
Mhm,
check his levels, blood work. He's been poked so many times.
I can imagine.
Yeah, like so he basically at 8 months they found out that he had Alagille syndrome, which the only sort of like he was on different medications because so with the liver the bile comes out in your skin, which
Mm,
causes the yellowing, but it
mhm,
also causes like severe itching. So he was on like prednisone, he was like on steroids and like a lot of medication. Um,
mhm.
some other medication that lessens the itching. But yeah, like scarred, at 8 months, it's tough. So then
So what
basically,
are you thinking at this point? What's going through your mind? Your son has surgery. Now he's
mhm,
going through this itching. You've got to apply this cream. He's on prednisone, which I know is not an easy medication to take.
yeah.
It has a lot of side effects. As a mom, what's going through your mind at this point in time?
I mean, just because we don't know really what's happening, why
Mm-hmm.
is it happening? um and that was kind of with his dad, just like trying to like, is it our fault, is it something that we did, um
Mm-hmm.
and kind of just like kind of going through the motions
Mm-hmm.
of dealing with a child who's sick. And
Mm-hmm.
at 8 months, they basically let us know that, oh, taking supplements because he wasn't absorbing the fats and vitamins. So,
Wow.
his hair was very thin, um, just, with the lack of vitamin D with anything.
Mm-hmm.
And having to supplement what he was eating with like MCT oil, so like added fats. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like basically, so obviously I took off work,
Yes.
and I extended my maternity leave, didn't go back to work, and I was pretty much off until he was about 18 months.
Wow.
Um, but then around like when he turned about 9 months, they gave us the diagnosis of Alagille syndrome, but then they just said that he would be like, it was like failure to thrive is what they called it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they actually told us, if they didn't do of transplant, that he wouldn't make it past 2 years old.
Wow.
So sort of dealing with that. And then obviously it was tough because we still had, Aria was 10 years old. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of our time was spent, um, with, dealing sort of with Kael, but I,
Mm-hmm.
had to split, you know,
Yes. You have a
with,
daughter as well, which
yeah.
is
And so
definitely
she was,
hard.
you know, uh, there was no issues. Like she was great and
Mm-hmm.
always included her with everything. So
That's good.
battling with that and then battling with not knowing and then, many nights of crying.
Of course. Of
um,
course.
and
Yeah.
then just sort of not having a solution, and then the solution that they're giving you is a liver transplant. So
Mm,
doing your research, figuring everything out, and just being terrified that
of course.
that this might not work, that we might not get a liver, that so
Now, did you know anything about liver transplants before this? Did you know anyone who's had a
no,
transplant? This is just
no,
all
yeah,
new.
yeah,
Mm.
it was kind of like like this doesn't happen, like
He's so young too,
yeah,
right?
and you kind of, and like everything went well, so it was like it was very, and because I work with children, so there's I've had children with many different the issues that we've sort of come up with, but never, I've had children that I've had with cancer and sort of, so
Hmm.
I knew, like, so I had that like empathy for families and for what they're going through. And like a lot of people did reach out, just to, like where I worked, and like families, parents, to
But it
like
hits
support.
differently when it's you, though,
Yeah.
right? It hits completely differently. You know, it's a different ball game at that point,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, that's the whole thing too, is just, you just don't like, why?
Yes.
Why is this happening?
Mhm.
So around like when he was a year, he turned for the better.
Good.
So he was like, I guess like the medications that he was taking to thin of the bile so that it could sort of pass through, because right now he still has the Kasai procedure. So
Okay.
it was working quite well. But
Sorry, let's go back for a second.
yeah,
Let's explain to the audience what that is, just in case they don't know.
so
The
the
procedures, you just
oh
mentioned.
yeah, so attaching, so like the liver has like a main duct, and it has like branches
Mhm.
like a tree, and each one of these ducts feed into the liver, and it's also connected to like the gallbladder and the pancreas and all of that
Mhm.
digestive um, system. So what they did was they bypassed all of these branches and just attached like the biggest main, like directly to the liver. So the opening of the
Mhm.
duct,
Okay.
so yeah, is like
Okay.
attached to it, so that it's able to flow through a larger duct than
Mhm.
those branches that were atrophied or small, or
Gotcha. Okay.
non-existent. Some of
Yeah.
them weren't even there.
Okay.
But then it looked like, I guess because he was getting stronger and he was getting older,
Mhm.
it was able to work effectively. And then we had the conversation. So with the liver, similar to a kidney transplant, like you can have a donor, a living donor.
Mhm.
I learned all about that, and obviously, similar, reached out and got family members tested, um,
Mhm.
and then
Is
dad was.
there any, sorry, was there any like pushback, or was there anybody
No,
else kind
no,
of
and I
hesitant?
think, yeah, I think it's just too, because it's like a child, and what they explained to us is that because it's a child size,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
I didn't even know that the liver regenerates.
Yes. Mhm.
So, there's two lobes. There's like a bigger lobe and then a smaller lobe. So what they would have done was just take that smaller lobe and then attach it to that big duct that was already
Okay.
there,
Okay.
and then that liver would grow into the space that
Mhm.
it was transplanted into. So
And
that,
whoever donated, theirs would just grow back.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Mhm.
So basically Davin went through all of the work,
Mhm.
and he was a match
And
as
this
a
is
donor.
his father.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Kael's father. Yeah. And he was a match, so we went through all the process, um, and blood work, and then just submitting, and a psychological assessment,
Okay.
because obviously, um, there's a risk that there might be complications in the living donor, uh,
Mhm.
and obviously, like we had that conversation about who would donate,
Mhm.
because of the time of the recovery period. Davin was, I would have to be the caregiver, so
Yeah.
I couldn't, Davin wouldn't have been able to take care of both of us, I'll tell you that. um but so basically, we went through the process,
How long
and
was the process? How long did it take?
a couple months, like it wasn't,
Okay.
yeah, like, and then it was kind of like he was getting better, and it was like a wait and see. um
Mm.
And so now, so going through the process, and then he was 4
Mhm.
at this time, and um yeah, so we would go for the checkups, and Davin was sort of a donor, and we were kind of just waiting until his liver failed
Okay.
to do this process.
Now,
um
another question for you. With Davin, did he have to go on like a specific like diet, or I mean, because you're doing the whole wait and see, right? So
yeah,
did he kind of
yeah.
like have to stay away from junk food within this time frame, or was
So
that like?
it was funny, because like he felt that he had to, like, like eat healthy and
Mhm.
work out. So he was sort of on this stint of like, not drinking
Mhm.
or,
Mhm.
like detoxing, and then
Yes.
just living like sort of a healthy life.
Mhm.
Not that he wasn't healthy before, but like, because he played hockey
Yes.
sports, but basically like just like as a family, we were just taking care of ourselves a little bit more
Mhm.
because we didn't, sort of know how this was going to transpire.
And he
And
didn't
then,
want to jeopardize his chance either, right?
right,
With
yeah,
possibly saving his
um,
son's life.
yeah, because he was basically, and I felt like him too, like he felt that he was, obviously I carried Kael, and
Mhm.
he wanted some ownership over. I'm gonna save the day,
Yes.
like,
Yes. He
you
wants to
know,
be the one. He wants to be the hero, right?
yeah, yeah,
Which is
and
expected. Like, that's
no,
expected.
exactly. And so
Mhm.
like, because that's the thing. So like, I'm going to the hospital. You're sort of dealing with things, giving the medication. And he wanted to play his part for his
Mhm.
son, like the
Yeah.
greatest gift.
Yeah. That
um,
reminds me of my mom, actually, because she said, I'm going to be the donor. Like, she wanted to be that donor. And they're like, no, unfortunately, you can't. She's like, no, I want to donate. Like, I want to. She wasn't even tested. She just knows we have the same blood type. That's it. I'm the donor. And she
yeah,
was just
so because
dedicated. Like,
everybody wants to help and like
yes.
support and stuff for sure, but
Mhm.
obviously you still have to think about yourself too.
Of course. Yeah.
So so the story is very funny and kind of like when the universe just, so he was the living donor, but what they decided to do, like maybe about, I would say about a month um prior, they said, you know what, we're going to put Kael on the transplant list.
Mhm.
Just so now it's getting a little bit where we know that dad's the donor, but just to have a backup in case
Mhm.
something, goes awry.
Yes.
um and we had just went to the hospital for a checkup on Friday evening.
Mhm.
um, and then Sunday morning, we got a phone call from the hospital, and they were like, "Hi, this is the organ transplant like team. There's a liver for you. Make your way to the hospital." Um,
Wow.
and then I was just like, "No, no, it's okay. We don't need
We're
it.
good.
We're good." And I was just like, his dad is a living donor. We've already gone through the paperwork. Give it to somebody else. Um, we're fine. And she was just like, she sort of went on the computer and looked up the file, and she was like, no, actually, they just had a meeting on the Friday saying that because of like, because they had did like the X-rays or ultrasounds, and basically they were saying that because of what they need and the ducts that were there, they actually needed a full liver with
Wow.
all of the ducts intact.
Wow. So that right there just puts Devin.
Sunday, yeah. So we were
Wow.
in shock, and then basically they were like, make your way down here, so that we can start the process because it's on the way.
Oh my goodness.
um,
Wow.
and like when you with the scope of it is obviously, he's 4, and he was obviously smaller than normal because
Mhm.
of the absorption of fats and growth, and his growth was
So hold on a second. So you just found out 2 things. You just found out, first of all, Devin is not the
yeah.
donor, right? And now you're finding out, yeah, you better just come down right now because we need to prep your son for surgery.
Yeah.
And so what's going through your mind at this point?
Fear,
Of course.
like because it was funny. And you probably went through the same things. You're trying like all of these things. We can figure this out. Like we can fix
Yes.
it. We're looking on the internet. We're trying to find like liver, like how to boost your liver, how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying, all of these things, and we kind of in the back of our mind was just like, he won't need it.
That was me. That was me 100%. I don't need a kidney transplant. I'm good. I'm gonna just do juice and I'm gonna cleanse.
We're gonna cleanse.
Oh, we're good, right?
But obviously,
and at one point, you probably thought he looked like he was getting better too, right?
Yes.
Out of everything you were doing,
yeah.
it's working. So you won't need a transplant at all.
Whatever it is that we're doing is working, and we won't have to, transition into this huge, life-changing operation.
Mm-hmm.
that had, its risks and rewards, but
Yeah.
you don't really think about the rewards when, there's a potential that it doesn't work out.
Yeah, of
All of
course.
those things are going through your mind, and then knowing, well, obviously the hospital knows, like, we can't pass up this opportunity, and the
Not
fact
at all.
it wasn't even like we had just went on their Friday and they said, yeah, everything's, fine, and then I thought it was a joke.
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know so we ended up going down there, like, sort of just getting everything going down there, and so the surgery was actually on the Monday,
Okay.
so, but like 6 o'clock in the morning, I don't,
Mm-hmm.
like very early, and everything was prepped, and it was just waiting now, like, went in. And
Quick question for you now. Was the liver a living donor? Is it deceased donor? Was he on, you said he was on the list, right?
yeah, so basically, because they needed the full, like, both the lobes, and all the ducts intact, and that was what I was saying, is just like realizing that, somebody had to pass, and it would have to have been a child that was younger,
Mm-hmm.
Kael, and it would have had to have been like sudden for them, to harvest the organs.
Yes.
And then, so it was that too, like, this was coming from like somebody's loss.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
That's a lot. That's a lot to take in all at one time, right?
yeah, because, and that's the thing, because I'm sort of in childcare, like,
Mm-hmm.
just children like are precious, and
Yes.
and then just knowing, like, what sort of that family went through,
Mm-hmm.
and that the fact that their child was on donor's list, you don't know really anything.
That was my next question for you. If who know the person or are able to get in
No,
contact with them or anything, send a
yeah.
letter or something.
So they did give us an opportunity to potentially, like, write a statement, but there was just like a lot of stuff happening during that time, that was
Mm-hmm.
just, to sort of put pen and paper to articulate that, going through sort of the recovery. And then, obviously years have passed, but it's, obviously telling Davin that I was embarking on this conversation with you and sharing this story, that we definitely would like to reach out potentially, to that
Mm-hmm.
family, and just say, like, this is what you did for us.
Mm-hmm. This is what it looks like. This is, yeah.
Yeah.
And simply
So
thank you, right?
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And then, so
Surgery day. Tell me about that day. Surgery.
yeah,
You're
and so
nervous, you're
basically
scared.
coming in, like, we're there, we're waiting. It took, I can't even remember like how long, but it was about, 8 to 10 hours
Wow.
that we were sort of waiting for.
Wow.
And then, when you get the news that everything went fine, everything,
Mm-hmm.
the way that it should have. Um, and funny story. So I have Jamaican descent,
Mm-hmm.
and West Indians are very like, you can't leave. Because they said you can go home, rest, come back. No,
Mm-hmm.
no, no. My mom was like, no, you can't leave. You can't leave. There is no way you are going home. Stay with the child. Stay with the child. So Davin went home, got changed, like, went home to like rest. And I stayed, and, like, they have like rooms, like showers and everything for you to like wait. And
Yes.
it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, that,
Mm.
so basically, backpedal, what they said was, of how long that he was going to be in each stage of the recovery. So you're
Okay.
in ICU, potentially for 2 to 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
while they're recuperating, waiting for them to breathe on their own, um,
Mm.
and like sort of take the tubes and stuff out. Um, at 2 o'clock in the morning, so we were there at 6. This is around, 10. I can't even remember, but 10 to 12 hours later. Um, and then 2 o'clock in the morning, they have like the little pager, and they called and they said, he's up and he's pulled out the cords. You're
Oh.
ready to go. Like, because basically they said, like, as soon as that happens, they're ready to go into like sort of like, to a room.
Feels
So,
like I'm done. What is this? I don't
so
want
I called
this.
my mom and I was like, they're moving us into a room. I told you.
You can't go.
He's like, I told you not to leave. I said it. And
moms know best.
Yeah. And so it was like 2:00. He pulled them out. He was ready. He was up, like, wanting to like get up and go.
He had things to do.
Yeah. And so I know that you were asking this prior, like he was just like moving all the time, funny, like charismatic, joke, like just a silly, no, like, and even having to sort of go to the hospital pretty much like every month, and sometimes in the beginning, like every 2 weeks, having to sort of like go through that process. He was just still a normal kid. Yeah. And then, so even after the surgery, he was like still like ready to go.
Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
And so like the next day, so then they said, okay, you're going to be here for, potentially a week to 2 weeks recovery. And then like different stages. So they said, we're going to try to get him to walk in about 2 to 3 days. The next day he was like sitting up wanting to blow bubbles, because like they kind of do that so that they can see your function.
Yes.
Like wanting to walk around. And that was the next day after
That's amazing.
Intensive surgery. Like,
and he's determined. He's determined, right?
And that's how he still is. Like, you can't tell, if you tell him no, he is going to articulate to you every reason why it should be yes. Like,
that's what I'm talking about. It's okay. Future lawyer on your hands.
No, that's what yeah, exactly. I'm just like, don't waste your talents. Like, don't argue with me. Save that for everybody else out there.
Exactly.
So we were in the hospital for about like a week. So not long at all. I kind of even want to say like 5 days, not even the full 7, if my like memory serves me. But we were out and back home, and then obviously that process of when you come home with like the IVs and the cleaning of like the area. And so, there was some PSW, like a nurse that would visit us and bring us the syringes and sort of everything that,
and basically teach you how to do it. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
How to flush the line. And then
how was he? How was Kael during the process? Like when he had to clean and everything?
He was great.
That's good.
No, he was. I think because he was just so used to always, like, he would get needles at sick kids, and then they would say, "Do you want like the what do you call it? Like to deaden, so that it doesn't hurt. Like there's like a spray that they would put in.
Yes.
Yeah, to numb the area.
Yeah.
And he would never want it. They would just like, I'd have conversations with him. They'd poke him. He wouldn't even cry. Like,
damn. Okay.
Yeah. So, just everything that he sort of went through, he was a trooper. And then I think that is what made it easier to sort of handle, is because you wouldn't even have known that he was going through all of this, because he still had like a great attitude and wasn't complaining about anything. I mean, now
as a mom, right? As a mom, if you see him upset and crying every single time you've got to do this, or it breaks your heart. Like, even though it still breaks your heart. So to see that he's a trooper with everything, and he's taking it, like a soldier, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a very good.
He's 11, and obviously, we have those conversations about when he does get older, and how to sort of manage having a liver transplant. And so, liver, any like cirrhosis so that's also too, that's what happened. Now I remember, you can put it back. But the reason why we were rushed to like that they made that decision is because they did the test and his liver was cirrhosed. So basically it's like so damaged that
it's not functioning properly.
It wasn't functioning properly.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's why they had they needed a full liver as well. Even if they were to just put in a portion, it wouldn't be
wouldn't do the job completely. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
question before you say what you're about to say.
Yeah.
Everything worked out so well. Everything worked out so well. I mean, you had Davin that was ready to jump in if need be. You know what I mean? You have a liver that was waiting for you that you didn't even think that you needed, really, but you found out, oh wait, we do need this. And they said, come on in, let's do this now. Everything worked out so perfectly. You know, he bounced back from surgery. He's an amazing young little boy. So do you feel that all of this happened and fell into place perfectly just by chance? And you know what? You know, fate, you know, it was kind of like a higher power. You just think that it just so happened, just all coincidences, and there's nothing there to it. It just all coincidence.
You know what? I kind of like, I know, you know, everything happens for a reason, and you're trying to find like sort of the silver lining to all of this. And it was hard to sort of figure out that any good could come of this, but then it sort of did. And I guess you can say that it tested everybody that was involved in the sense of like with strength, and that you can overcome, you know, things that are thrown your way, and that if you just sort of, you know, have your beliefs and manifest that it's gonna, like, this is gonna work. Like there's, you know, it has to, and whatever, you know, guardian angels, people watching over, or whatever it is, like I feel like the universe does speak to you and does listen. I mean, it's not listening to me when I want to make $1 million, but
me too.
They're selectively listening. But I think it was just, you know, sort of having sort of like, like a positive outlook, and then just knowing that whatever does happen, that we would get through it together. Like it was,
it brought your family closer together as well.
And it was kind of just like something that you know, you had to overcome. And I mean, so as he got old, so, you know, basically grade 1, he also was diagnosed with ADHD. But I mean, I have ADHD. Like, like I have to multitask. I can't focus. So it's just sort of now like his physical health is fine, and so now we kind of struggled with ADHD and sort of school, and then also because of him having to still do those regular appointments, he missed a lot of school.
Which makes it difficult as well.
And so, and I mean, and then that's just kind of what the liver transplant is not even really an issue anymore. It's just more now like school,
regular life now,
right? Like regular stuff, and
focused on the transplant for so long, and now it's just like, here's life.
Oh, there's something else.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, there's other things that we have to worry about. But
has he ever come up to you and ask you, Mommy, why is this happening to me? Like, why did I have a transplant? Why do I have this mark? Why, you know, why did I have to have surgery? Like, has he asked those questions?
Right. So it's interesting. In the beginning, and like even up until pretty much last year, until like 10 years old, that it wasn't a thing. He never really even talked about it. But then I think going through puberty now, and kind of, he's sort of having some sort of issues with positive body image.
Okay.
So he is conscious of the scar. And like he actually started like trying to work out to like build abs so that it could hide it somewhat. Swimming, sort of wearing shirts when he went swimming because he didn't want anybody to see it. But it was a very short, like the summer that just passed. And then just having him sort of celebrate that, you know, you went through so much. Like you were great, you're wonderful, showing pictures. And then we're slowly sort of trying to get him off of, but I think that that's just puberty in itself. Like, you know, media and YouTube, and just seeing, you know, I guess people that he would look sort of up to, and you know, and also to sort of dealing with he is mixed race, and like where it fit in, so like just normal issues like that. But the liver did come up, and where he was sometimes when we'd say, oh, you can't really do that, you have to be careful.
Yes.
And then he would
raises questions again, right?
yeah, and it was just like, why? And I was just like, well, you just have to be a little bit more, more careful with, because you're on immunosuppressants. And then he had mentioned a couple of times, like, I hate this liver, like, and that was the first time that it sort of came up. So we've been sort of having those conversations with him too, that
yes,
not something that, it doesn't stop you from doing anything. You just have to be like a little bit like careful, because like
careful.
even this,
Yes.
like sports that he's joining, and
share the greatactions.ca, the website, to him. Share him, let him see that, the Great Actions campaign. I was in there showing my scar, and there's a lot of other amazing people showing their scars as well. Let him know that he should be proud of it. It's something that he should be proud of. He's been through a lot, and this is his scar, his warrior scar. You know what I mean? We've talked about
and we did have that conversation, and that was, the catalyst of when we watched you, and knowing that, oh, this is somebody else that I can relate to, that we, that and that we're close to, that has sort of that same journey and is thriving. And so that's basically, plus going through puberty. It's
oh, it's not easy. I know, it's not easy.
It's just like, but and then we're just like always talking and sort of always sharing.
That's good. Communication is definitely key. Definitely.
And then it was funny too, because like this is what I was saying when I was talking about the cirrhosis, is that there's, whenever you hear about the liver, you think it's like alcohol.
Yep, that's true.
That that and so, as he's sort of getting older, we have those conversations, like, when you get to be like 18, or when you start, when you go to college, you have to sort of be careful. And Davin says, like, no alcohol at all, like. But then I'm just
I wouldn't go that far, but
I know. And so I was just like, well, technically, like, I honestly feel like the liver is his. Like,
of course, guaranteed.
I'm even skeptical if he even needs to take the tacrolimus. Like, don't tell the doctors that, but
keep taking the tacrolimus, but he's doing so well, right? It's
because it's like it's so like, do we, does it even need to? But
and that's good. That's a testament to how well he's doing. That's amazing. Yeah. Right.
So we're definitely sort of just happy that we went through it. As much as it could break people, like,
oh, definitely.
If you don't have that sort of that mind that everything's going to be okay,
and that good support system behind you, and like, belief system, like you said, have some type of faith. You have to believe in something, whether, like you said, if it's guardian angels or if it's what have you. You have to have that support. You have to have something to believe in, because it's a hard process. It is definitely a hard process, but it's good to know that, you've made it out. You're on the other side. You have a thriving, I can't believe we're talking about puberty with Kael, but you have a thriving young man who's going through puberty and experiencing life as it should be, which is great. And you've come through. You look amazing. You look unscathed. And I'm just so proud of you guys. I'm so extremely proud of you guys that you guys made it through this. You came through it, and you're standing strong and standing tall. Like nothing even happened, which is beautiful.
Yeah, so. No, it was definitely a process, but we're glad we're sort of able to deal with anything that comes our way, because we don't know what.
Yes. Usually at this point in time, I turn around and I give our audience a nugget of knowledge. So like some type of words of wisdom. And today's nugget of knowledge is: there is no love greater than a mother's love. And that is just you, embodiment of you and what you've done and what you continue to do with your family and your son. And you wear multiple hats and you do multiple things, but you're always there for your family and you're always there for your children. And that is amazing. So continue the great work. Continue to hold your head high, keep your crown straight. And that's right, hold your head high, do you. And I'm extremely proud of you. Extremely proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you for joining us on the Green Table Talk. And feel free to come back again anytime.
It would be my pleasure.
Excellent. Love you. Take care. And thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.